everybody, welcome to Randi Sands and the Mediumship crew. It's nice to see everybody this evening. And we're going to be talking tonight about remote viewing. Before we do, I do want to remind you that if you couldn't make it tonight, don't worry. It will be up on YouTube, so you'll be able to go to it. And if you view it on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that way any future content we do, you'll be notified. And we've got Jack as usual. Jack, wave.
Hi, good people.
And we have Tammy, who's with us most weeks, and Colleen, all practicing mediums. So what we're going to do is talk about remote viewing, what it is, and the importance of it. We were supposed to be reviewing this book right here, Remote Viewing by David Moorhead, or Morehouse. I always want to say Moorhead for some reason. The little dilemma that we've had is he uses a lot of scientific jargon, which really makes me
Crazy?
Yeah, just a little bit, because I have to read and read and read everything over and over and over again to glean. There's a lot of valuable information, but I really have to keep reading it and digesting it to get what he's trying to give me. So the Department of Defense defines remote viewing as a learned ability to transcend space and time to view persons, places, and things remotely, and to gather information. My best analogy of this is it's kind of like having home cameras. When you're away from home, you can view what's going on. So that's kind of my best explanation of what it is. It was a technique that was used by many, many countries to spy on real or perceived enemies, using our human abilities to gather information about a target that was far off. And remote viewing is associated with clairvoyance and is defined as the ability to acquire accurate information about a different or a distant place, person, and thing without any other obvious means. Many consider it a trained ability versus a natural psychic ability. Remote viewing, just like mediumship, is built into all of us. Not all of us know how to access it, but the ability is there. Remote viewing, I know at least Colleen works with law enforcement as well. And for that, it's very, very, very valuable. It's very valuable to be able to see a crime scene, to see a crime taking place, to view it possibly through the victim's eyes or the perpetrator's eyes, and gather information. And again, it's something we all have the ability to do. And we do. Many of us just don't even realize that we do it. For example, how many times has somebody seen, I don't know, a glass on the edge of a table, and you clearly see that glass is going to get bumped and fall off the table? How many times have you not done anything about it and it gets bumped and the glass falls off the table? So that's a form of remote viewing. So what I would like to do is I would like to open up the floor for people to talk about their ideas of remote viewing, maybe their definition of remote viewing, and ask questions. If anybody's at home, please feel free. If you're viewing, please ask questions or share input. Let's make this a very open exchange, and all opinions are welcome. So with that, the floor is open.
We had a well-known remote viewer. His name was Ingo Swann. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was also psychic and an artist. He was 80 years old and died in 2013. And he used to do remote viewing for the CIA.
Yeah, he's in this book.
Ah, yeah. And he used to observe Russia from California. And it was amazing. He worked with Stanford Research Institute, and they studied him and did all kinds of tests and everything. And he came out to be 95% correct on all his remote viewings that he did. And when he started teaching it, his students became well enough to read 85% correct. And I thought that was interesting. But he wrote all kinds of books, and he's really quite an interesting character. And if you want to know more about it, you might want to look him up. It's INGO, Ingo, SWANN. But
and it's not surprising to any of us, is it?
Not at all. But he got it down to a science. I mean, he always said not to, when you do remote viewing, not actually to focus on what you think you are seeing, but concentrate more on the like rectangles and the circles and things like that when you draw out what these visions are that you get. And then they say that when they go to this point of what he was remote viewing, that these circles and squares and everything would become the actual outline of the buildings and the trees that were in the area and things like that. But they said sometimes when we try and, well, kind of like when we do psychic work, if we try and think into things, it loses its truth. I think when we let our own human minds try and get into the middle of what Spirit's giving us, then we lose something in translation. That we need to just work with the simple facts that come through, whether it's a symbol or a shape or whatever, and not to let our mind go off into tangents, if that makes sense.
It does to me. As we're talking, I'm trying to send Eve the link to come in.
Well, one of the things that I realized that I was remote viewing all of my life, and I didn't know it was remote viewing because my grandparents played games with me,
right,
to do that. And now it's funny now as an adult and in my 50s, when my grandparents would have been at that age, I'm at the age where my grandparents were when they were doing this kind of stuff. My grandfather was in the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
So of course I have this ability, and it's kind of neat that they played these games with us kids. We thought it was a game, but it was really a way to tune our minds so that we just go there.
And it's amazing because my aunt was the bureau chief of the Department of Justice. So that's kind of interesting because maybe, as you're saying, maybe we were kind of taught from a young age to do that. So let's talk about
We have a question that came up from one of the people that are sitting here. are premonitions a form of remote viewing?
They can be.
Yep.
They absolutely can be. Where did you see that
It is a good
question?
question. I'm in the Zoom webinar chat. I'll watch
Oh.
Zoom webinar chat. Jack watches Facebook chat. We got you covered.
Good. I'm glad, because with Mercury in retrograde, all my electronics are going crazy. Eve can't get in. I had to send it to Tammy like 15 times.
Yep.
So, Lynn, congratulations. You got in on the first try. I would say absolutely. You know, I think it would depend on the premonition itself, because, you know, there's many different clairs. Are you seeing it? Are you feeling it? Are you hearing, you know, how are you getting it would be my first question. If you're getting a vision in your third eye, then I would say absolutely. What about you guys?
Definitely. There's all the
Absolutely.
different states of consciousness, right? The delta and the gamma and the ones like that, that usually you're unconscious, but you can still be conscious and unconscious at the same time, if that makes any sense. If you feel like you're stepping out of yourself, I get a hollow feeling when I'm awake, but I'm sleeping, you know? So I feel like I'm just outside of myself, right? But that's when you go to these different places and you can bring that knowledge back with you if that's what you're so intent to do. I was at the Cleveland airport with someone one time and I said, oh my God, it's starting to rain. And the next plane that comes in, I see it sliding off the runway. And he's like, yeah, right, you know? And I said, no, really. And sure enough, that plane came down and it, as soon as it hit the tarmac, it turned sideways and started going sideways. And he just looked at me and he said, you're a witch. And I said, no, it was just something that I knew. The minute that I saw the rain, it triggered the thought that that's what was going to happen, and it did, you know. So I believe in a certain super consciousness that we have, that I saw that, and that's what made the words coming out of my mouth, and then it happened.
You know, it's funny because when I met my wife eons ago, we were dating and we were on the phone and she was going to a meeting, and I don't even know why she said it, but she said she was going to leave her purse in the car. And I said, I don't think I would do that if I was you. Well, after her meeting, she called me and she said, you're a witch. And I said, what? And she goes, somebody broke the window of my car and my purse is gone.
Right.
You know, I saw it. I saw that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how people can help train themselves to do it. Let's talk about the benefits of it. For example, you know, like working with law enforcement.
Well, how do you train yourself? Like, what state are you in when you decide, like, or what state do you put yourself in when you decide you want to do a remote viewing for somewhere?
That's a good question. Do you guys want to go first?
I'd say a good meditative state, at least. Like I say, meditative and lower, you know, to where you're very relaxed, ultra relaxed.
I take it a slightly different approach, is that I kind of focus my brain in a little different way. So I might do, when I do remote viewing really effectively, I'm doing something else.
Me too.
So I'm crocheting, I'm doing something artistic. My brain is split into two pieces.
Right, but that's
And
a meditative state.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of thinking of it.
It's a different way. You know, it's not sitting there in you know, doing a meditation. It's my brain needs to be engaged a little bit somewhere else to free up
Right.
that ability to go over here.
Right.
Like when you're doing mundane things that don't require your brain to really be involved.
Mhm.
You know, with COVID, you guys are probably, it sounds like a broken record, but with COVID, I had to stop swimming. I was swimming 2 to 4 miles a day. And, you know, consequently now I have some weight to take off, but I'm back swimming. And when I swim, I have the MP3 player that goes in water for swimmers. And I put meditative music and I'm doing something, but my brain is disconnected and I will get so much while I swim that it's sometimes it can be overwhelming because it's just like the gates just open and it's like boom, 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 boom. And, you know, sometimes I'll get out of the water and I won't even remember half of it because there was so much. But I hope that that answers your question, Lynn.
Mostly. I think it just adds more questions. It
Okay,
answers
give
the
them to us.
Like, I guess, do you set like the intention of where it is you want to remote view? I know like for forensic stuff that you would probably, you know, have a specific location you were trying to go to. And then the other thing I had thought about is like, what do you actually see when you do the remote viewing? Say you want to go to like a specific location. I know, you know, Tammy was talking about the shapes and the blocks, or Colleen was, I forget. But do you actually see like a real whole room, or do you just see it as sort of fuzziness with shapes and whatever? How does it come across?
Everyone receives it differently. But what I used to do with the students before COVID, when everybody got together, we would practice remote viewing. And what I would do is I would take them into the room, first of all, where I had a table set up, and they would see the empty table there. Okay, and then I would have them go back in the other room and I'd bring them into meditation to where they were very relaxed. And I would go in the other room and I would set something on that table.
Oh.
And then I would ask them when I came back into the room, still in that meditative kind of calm state of mind, I would ask them now to imagine themselves going into that room and seeing that same table, but what now is on that table. And I would ask them either to write down in words or however they got it. Some people get symbols and some people get visions and some people just hear, you know, information come through in their own mind's ear. And it was really productive and everyone did really, really well. I mean, it was something that was pretty interesting. So if you have a friend, you could have them, you know, set one up for you, you know, go in a room and see a blank table and, you know, look at the room, what it looks like, and then go back in the other room and have your friend put something on the table and then just concentrate in a meditative kind of calm way and see what you get.
You know, oh, I'm sorry.
And I think you'd be surprised. You know, you do really well.
Another technique that I use, you know, the yellow envelopes that have the metal clasp.
Uh-huh.
I'll take those and I'll put something in them.
Right.
It could be a postcard, it could be a playing card, it could be a tarot card, it could be anything, and I'll put something in several and I'll pass them out to people.
Right.
And their job will be to go into a meditative state and, you know, start giving what they get. Because I won't even know what they have in there. You know, at the end, we'll open it and we'll see. But that's another way. Do you have anything else? Because I see that there's a conversation going on that I would love to bring forward.
No, go ahead.
Colleen?
So Tiffany and Dawn are talking about how, you know, they see something and they could count it down like 3, 2, 1, and boom, it happens. So
Mhm.
they were talking about, how often does that happen? So Tiffany, if you want to take you guys off of mute.
Yeah, please. You don't need to be on mute. Do you see?
Because
Um,
they signed in
there
with my
she
name,
goes.
so
There she goes.
So like it doesn't happen intentionally. Like I've never heard of the term remote learning until tonight, and it's something that's happened since I was a child, as long as I can remember. And it's same for my mom. Like I never tried to do it. It's just like you're sitting down and something comes to your mind, and then you're like, oh, I know this is gonna happen, and then like 3, 2, 1, then it happens. Or you tell somebody, don't do that because this is gonna happen, and then they don't listen to you and it happens. Then there's days where I sit down and I'm like, I can look at something and be like, I've dreamt this. And then everything that you dreamt and you tell them that you dreamt is exactly what happens.
Okay, so let's look at that. You're already doing it unintentionally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to do it intentionally isn't a far stretch, right?
No.
Okay. Think of it like a muscle in your body. The more you use it, the bigger and the stronger it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of concept. So my suggestion, and then we'll have the others put their thoughts in, is work at it. Use it.
Okay.
You guys have anything to add?
You can even use regular old playing cards and turn them all face down and, look at the cards and say, is it going to be red or black, or a number or a color card, or, you can play these games by yourself that also help. And I think we played those when we were kids. So I think that's another, we do use it more than what you think. And I think that's why when we set up these little vignettes with things for people to remote view, that they do so well, is because it is something that we do normally. We just don't realize it.
And there's a couple other things that I would suggest too. For example, the game Sudoku. If you play on a hard level, you're going to get to a point where you typically have to kind of guess what goes into a box.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll try to see it, and I'll literally see the number appear in that box. Another thing that's interesting to do is take a deck of playing cards. You know how we've always played the game where you turn it over and then you turn another one over, and the goal is to match, to remember where it was and match. Okay.
Mhm.
You can take, let's say, all the ones from a deck, all the sevens and all the whatever, sixes, and lay them all out, mix them up. And so now you've got these neat rows, right? And you can say, okay, where is a 6? Or
right.
you can take, let's say, all 6s and lay them out and, get into that state and say, where's the heart, the 6 of heart?
Okay.
And there's a game that I play with my mediumship students where I take and I give them index cards, and I grabbed them, right? And there's a color on it, right? And it says black, right? And I give them each a card, right? And then the other person, I put them in pairs and they have to guess what color they have. Well, it gets really interesting when I do something like this. It says blue, but it's written in red, and the person gets red. So that's that remote viewing, that they're seeing the color, not the word, so it's all those kind of fun exercises to do that you have that help people get there.
And you can always have a friend, and you guys can work at it together. You could come up with certain things, like I do the envelopes, you can put the cards face down, you can do different things. and they can come up with different things for you to do so that you're both using it, you're both working it.
Hmm.
You know, even if you're remote, because right now with COVID, you know, it's kind of hard to be in person. But like you have your mom there, you have your uncle, but you can also do it just like this via Zoom or FaceTime.
Hmm.
So you're not pigeonholed, okay? You can still do this.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions, hon? No? Okay. So let's chat about the benefits, you guys. What are the benefits of remote viewing?
Details.
Okay.
You get better details when you start remote viewing. In giving an example, I did a reading once where I was connecting with the person, and the spirit that I was connected with was giving me details and taking me to that person's kitchen. So to let the person know that that spirit was still with them in the kitchen, having a cup, well, they were having a cup of tea, and the routine of how they were doing their tea, and how they dunked the tea bag so many times, and then they didn't wind it around the spoon, and then they put the sugar in, and then they put the cream in, you know. So that's how I got that information, is because they showed me. They knew I had this ability, so they took me there. So it helps with the details.
I agree. Tammy, you have anything?
Well, as far as Ingo Swann goes, it was great for our country to know what the heck Russia was up to.
Yes, I agree.
But no, it gives you could. I had a friend that would astro travel all the time, and she would go see her mom, and she could tell her what she was wearing and what room she was in, and know that she was all right. And I mean, there's a million different reasons why you'd use it, why we do use it, you know?
Yeah, for me, I would say the two biggest reasons. Oh, SSK is coming in. Boom! SSK is in the house. SSK is in the house. For me, I would say some of the biggest benefits that I get from remote viewing is on a mediumship level, evidentiary.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times when I'm doing readings, I remember this one time in particular, I saw a woman, I saw her in a kitchen with an old wood burning type stove, and I saw tons of vegetables on her counter. And this was a reading I did for another medium. And it turned out that it was his grandmother. That was her stove. And I was talking about shoes that they were made of a material that wasn't soft. I said, I almost feel like it was wood. And he said they were. And the vegetables were there. She was prepping them because she grew them. So when she would pick them, she would bring them in and wash them and, you know, prep them. So it was all about, you know, evidence. But I also use it aside from law enforcement, because I think that we'll get into in a minute. But I use it on a personal level. With COVID, not so much, because, you know, we're not doing our normal whatevers. But I would, if I was going out somewhere, let's say a restaurant, I would be able to remote view and get a feel for the energy, the layout, what it's going to look like, you know, ahead of time. And I loved it because I was more prepared when I walked in the door. Like there were no surprises. Not that somebody's going to come in a cake and jump out of the cake or anything, but you know, you just kind of get a feel. SSK, you want to jump in?
Well, I'm sorry for being late, but yeah, I remote viewing, I love it. I use it a lot in my work also, but you know, I use it too to experience a little bit of the spirit world. I mean, don't you think we remote view when we go there? I mean, we're just kind of, you know, getting ourselves to see, you know, where Gran's living now or what she's up to, or, you know, kind of, so we can use that. I think we probably remote view more than we even realize.
Mhm.
Right. Yep.
I absolutely agree.
Because I feel like when I'm traveling and I'm not at home, I can sometimes like just like come into my home, see that the kids have not done the dishes, see that my son has not done his homework. And then I call home and I'm like, get off the Xbox. Like, how did you know I was on it? Because I see you. Which I don't know how they feel about it.
So
Have you seen my business card?
yeah.
My
Have you
daughter
seen my
totally
business
gets
card?
it. I think she knows that. I think my daughter totally gets it. Like, she knows she can't get away with anything. My son, I think, is still on the fence a little bit.
Yeah, it's like you scold him and you turn your back to walk away. I see that face.
Well, now
Fix your face. Fix your face.
now you're bringing a point up. Interesting. It would be fun to question even like owners, you know, like of, you know, how moms, like even of fur owners, like you have eyes in the back of your head. Is that really remote viewing?
I think so.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah. I can't read that book.
Oh my God, isn't it difficult?
Well, it's
He
very...
makes me crazy. I mean, he doesn't make me crazy, but he does. There's a lot of really valuable information in it, but literally what I have to do is read each chapter like 10 to 20 times, and even forget even a chapter, a sentence, 10 to 20 times. And I'm like, okay, let me read it really slow this time. And let me ponder each word. Now, see, Jack is doing a little better than I am, but those of you that know me know that I'm extremely literal. Like, if I'm talking to you, I say exactly what I mean. You don't have to wonder. Listen to the words, and that's exactly what I mean. So, and I don't go around the bush, you know, and where he's
worse than you, Lynn.
What's that?
I said you might even be worse than Lynn when it comes.
I was just thinking that. Is anybody possibly worse than I am? I'm very literal myself. It's horrible.
I may be. So it's like, give it to me in plain, simple English. Don't make me have to, don't make me have to overthink this, you know, because I get stuck. And I've gotten stuck.
I think with stuff that's like the metaphysics and the physics stuff, you kind of almost have to get what you feel from it, what you think he's trying to say, and just keep moving. Because once you, like when you're in it, it probably feels different, and it actually, you might get like more of a aha, that's what he's talking about right there. While you're doing the remote viewing, you might actually get a sense of what was he trying to explain. I would go past a lot of that stuff. Like, yeah, read it faster, keep moving.
Yeah, for me, I'm finding with this particular book, and normally I would agree with you, with this particular book, the more I read it, the more I'm like, okay, got it. But I have to keep reading it and think about, what is he trying to say here? Because he uses a lot of very scientific terminologies. Eighth dimension, for this, three, yeah, whoa, you just lost me right there. Okay, let's just back it up and give it to me, and you know, like, give me remote viewing for dummies.
Right. It's the one I want.
But it's also kind of nice to watch the science aspect. It's like spirituality defined scientifically, really, is what they're doing. So it is a blend of both, because I too enjoy science to this much of a degree. Like I love quantum physics talk, but then when I get a true like when I get a true quantum physics scientist, I go about 15 minutes. I'm like, can't.
You're like, I sit there and I go, but I will tell you that this book has been interesting, even though it'll probably take me a year to get through it because of having to go and reread it. It's interesting to see it from the way the scientific research comes about from like the Department of Defense and what have you. And that's the level he's on. So that's the way he's writing. I don't think he's intentionally doing it to make it difficult. So for me, I started really wanting to read it because it's giving me a completely different viewpoint, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Stacy, do you know of Bingo Swan?
I do.
I figured you would.
Mhm.
Stacy knows everybody.
Yeah, but his books are a lot easier to read, and you wouldn't have a problem like that.
Well, and again, that's why there's so many teachers, and so many different avenues to learn things. Like I think about it in the essence of remote viewing versus astral travel, and there's a difference. I mean, there's slight, but there is. Or now I can't get out of my mind that thought because my grandmother going, I got eyes in the back of my head. I thought, no, you didn't. You're remote viewing.
Mhm.
Right.
I get it now. Do you know what I mean? I get it. So.
You're reminding me of that Eddie Murphy skit from years ago where, your mother has like eyes in the back of her head and she takes her shoe and it goes boop, 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 around corners, around bends and smacks you in the head.
I remember that skit. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been my mother. No, I'm joking. So let's talk about.
I think Colleen had a statement. I'm not sure.
Oh,
Colleen, though.
Colleen?
Oh,
Or had
no,
a
not me.
question?
Tiffany
Oh.
Oh, there you are.
and Dawn are me.
Yes,
Go
Tiffany.
ahead,
Hun.
Tiff.
So, like how you said how astral projection could kind of be like remote viewing, would that work in the same way? Like if you're in a situation where you don't like what's going on, like you physically put yourself somewhere where you want to be, where you're more comfortable at, would that be kind of the same? Or
Not to remote viewing, I would say. Remote viewing is more of like I almost think that you're going somewhere for a you're going somewhere for a purpose, you're looking into somewhere. You're not necessarily, walking through it, if you would. Astral projection, we tend to kind of walk through it, but with remote viewing, we're just kind of using our
Seeing.
mind's eye to take a look at something. Does that answer the question?
yeah.
Perfect. Good.
Ingo Swan went just by directions of longitude and latitude. They would give him a number, and then he would just go from there and start drawing just
Wow.
on coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he'd ever been there or seen what the terrain was like or anything like that, but always could explain it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. So let's talk about it from another standpoint. And SSK, I love to change everybody's name. Jack is now Jack. SSK, Stacy's SSK. Colleen is still Colleen because it fits her. Otherwise, I would have changed that too, but give me time.
Tammy and I get to stay as is.
Ooh. Took
Well,
me a
no,
long time to-
actually, Tammy's is developing over time. Hers is developing over time. But SSK, have you worked with law enforcement at all or on any crime cases?
So it's so ironic that you bring that up because
No, it's not.
I know there's no such thing as irony, synchronicity, nothing. So I technically have not worked with law enforcement. However, I just did a missing persons reading just days ago,
Okay.
which I absolutely was thrown. I was impressed at what I could see remotely, like where they would bring me remotely. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can do that. Now, I remember when I was first learning how to really tap into my mediumship, I remember it may have been, Colleen, you might be able to help me with this. It may have been John White that said that if you say the person's name 3 times, you can tap into them. But there's a lot of different ways that you can go about things. So let's talk about some of that. Let's talk about, viewing a scene as a whole. Like sometimes I'll see it from above, or sometimes I'll see it like I'm standing somewhere. Sometimes I can see something through the victim's eyes, or sometimes I can see it through the perpetrator's eyes. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think there might be some people that might be interested in how we work with, like crime or missing people or things like that. Because not all missing people are a crime. Some people just wander off and get lost.
Right.
Can you
Or they don't
control?
want to.
Okay,
sorry.
let's do one at a time. Okay, Lynn, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, can you control which way you view it? Like, as far as like walking through the scene versus being above and looking around?
Absolutely.
I'm sure you can. I typically don't. I ask my guides to show me what I need to see, and I allow my guides to give me whichever view I need at that time. I'm sure if we wanted to, we could. And that's a good question. Do any of you?
I don't try and force what I see. I let it unfold for me in however it will, because I have all the clairs. So they can come through in many different ways, whichever is easiest, I guess, to get
Right,
the point across.
But with remote viewing, what she's saying is, do you try to determine which view you get? Whether it's from above, whether it's eye level, whether it's through the eyes of the victim, through the eyes of the perpetrator, do you try to control that?
I wouldn't. But
Go ahead.
everybody's different. I wouldn't.
But it depends on what the law enforcement needs. So if the law enforcement is looking for a missing person and they know that the person's been murdered and they just need to find the body, they're looking for information that'll help them find, because they already have the person in custody that killed them and confessed, but won't tell them where the body is. Right? So you really need to focus on where the body is. If you're looking for a missing person, they're on a trail, they went on a hike and they've been missing for 2 weeks, then you're going to look at it from a different perspective. Where did they go? What did they see? I mean, it's just by the nature of the questions that the law enforcement are giving you, it kind of guides you where you're going to go. And you're going to give what you get from there.
Now, see, this is a funny thing. As literal as I am when it comes to writing or, verbal communication, when it comes to my mediumship, I'm not that literal. I ask my guides to give me what I need to see, and they always do. So this is a good example of how we all work differently, because for whatever reason, when I'm working that way, I'm able to give up that, I don't know if you want to call it control or whatever, but I'm able to trust that they're going to give me what I need. And I don't even think to do that.
Well, but I also want to just add, for those that are first starting, first of all, Spirit's not going to show you anything that you're not going to be willing, that you're able to handle. So like when I heard Lynn ask the question, I think, yeah, of course, I'm always in control of my mediumship. Like I don't allow things that do not serve its purpose to be shown to me or brought to me, or anything of a vibration that I don't want to work with, because again, I guess if you're a developing medium, and say you're thinking to yourself, but I don't want to see any of that. Well, then don't see any of that. You are in control. You're not going to get forced to see it. But like Randi, you've worked with your team, you trust your spirit team,
Right.
You know they're going to bring it all to you in a way that you're going to be able to give that evidence, and like this, for me, I'm just starting this was just like, I'm really fresh into it. So like, I just feel like it's like, okay, this might be somewhere I might go and I might not, I mean, when I saw it in the eyes of the victim, is how I saw it. It was the only way that I could understand it, was to see it through the eyes of the victim. But I'm wondering if that, I guess to me, I that's what I wanted just to say, because I thought, like, for those people who maybe are just learning about mediumship, this can get kind of a little freaky. Like, I don't know if I want to see all that,
We all have basic boundaries though that we
Right.
set. And
Yep.
once you've set your boundaries, you don't feel that every time that you do a reading or that you have something come through that you're going back and resetting those boundaries, because they're already set. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we trust spirit, what spirit's giving us, because we know what our boundaries are that have been set. And we know that spirit is only going to give us the highest and the best, for whatever we're looking for. So it's not that, if you don't want to see blood and guts and whatever, then just say, when I read, I don't want to be shown this. Can you give me another sign or a symbol without showing me the gore?
Yeah.
But
And
it's
oh, I'm sorry.
definitely, everybody should set their intentions when they become a medium or start working, in the psychic world. I think it's real important.
And that's the funny thing. I'm probably, or when I got started, well, I don't know, because everything happens for a reason, and it happens the way it's supposed to. I
Right.
was about to say, when I first started, I was probably a little bit wacky and irresponsible, but maybe not, because I never did that. I always trusted that they wouldn't give me anything I couldn't handle, that they wouldn't give me anything that would make me want to run away from this. And that they would give me what I needed to know. And for me, that's worked. But, there's other people that I've talked to that, have seen things that made them want to run.
Mm-hmm.
And once you open up, there's no running. You can try, but you're going to be pulled back to it. And that's just the way it works. Once you go down the rabbit hole, there's no coming back, no
Right.
coming back up.
Right.
But I don't know that I would recommend, based on what I've heard from a lot of other mediums, some here, that you start off the way I did. Because, I mean, I just had a whole lot of trust. And that could have potentially gone the wrong way, but
Well, as a child, I think I needed to set boundaries because I was only 10 when things were being shown to me, and they were freaking me out. When my great grandmother came to me in a full body apparition, I was like, whoa, this scared the hell out of me. So then I said, I don't want to see any more spirits. And that lasted until my 40s. I didn't see any more spirits. Now I'm starting to come back into where I see spirits again, but that's because now I'm okay with it. And I don't need that, that buffer that said, oh my God, no, I don't want to see spirits. You can come to me any way you want. You can talk to me, whatever, but I don't want to see you. I don't want you like popping up in front of me and scaring me, because that's the way it was when I was small, So I think it was something that I had to learn to set my own boundaries, because otherwise I was going to be freaked out all the time.
Yeah.
And Randy, I think for the most part, you have strong boundaries just naturally. So spirit just worked with those boundaries for you. I mean, I have boundaries, and spirit knows where they can and cannot go with me, and that's okay. I've just gotten very specific when I work with law enforcement. What do you need? I don't want to spend 2 hours going through all of the stuff that I could get. What is it that you need to get you to the next step? I don't need to go, what do I need to prove that I'm with the spirit? And what do I'm much more all business about it. I don't want to be 4 hours into it. I want to grab that information and I want to move on. But that's me.
You may have a good point. Maybe I do have natural boundaries that, just didn't, like, I'm not even aware of. That spirit just was like, okay. And now see, again, here's the difference in people. The hardest thing for me when I was learning mediumship was they say, and I think Lisa Williams said this, the best mediums are people that are nosy. So, for me, I would be like, okay, they're giving me this. And then it's like Chinese water torture treatment, waiting for more information because I wasn't asking questions, because I just wasn't like nosy like that. Now, when it comes to crime, oh, I am nosy. Show me all of it. Okay. Oh, where did they walk? Where did they go? What happened? Show me all of it. And where Colleen is more, business end. And it's just funny, the difference in how we all work. It's really neat. And to me, it's what makes the whole thing go round. And it's what brings us all together, those of us that are friends. If we were all the same, it would be very boring. If we all worked the same, it would be very boring. And we can learn a lot from each other because we work differently. So somebody will say, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's an idea. Maybe I should try that. And I think that it also improves on our mediumship for us to be friends with each other.
Yeah. Definitely need a support system,
And that's what I tell all my students, build your support system and build it like in classes. Like when I have students, I tell them, make friends with each other, because there may come a day where you're experiencing something and you need people that understand.
Right.
You can't just talk about this to just anybody.
Yeah, I had a friend that went missing, and right away I knew that she had passed away. And the next thing I know, they find her car up at Niagara Falls with her purse inside of it. And I could see her jumping off the falls. And this went on for a couple months that they didn't know where she was. And when they found her car at Niagara Falls, my husband asked me, he says, do you think she jumped? And I said, I know she jumped. And I said, I wonder why they don't, they've got to have 1 million cameras around there. So they had to have seen it happen, right? But because they didn't have a body, they couldn't say that she committed suicide. And he says, well, where's her body? And I says, it's churning down below. I said, underneath the falls. I says, it's just, that's why I got the vision of it just churning. And a month after that, her body showed up in Toronto. It took all that time to come from Niagara Falls and go all the way up to Toronto before they found it. but it's still
Well-
like, you know, why did they keep it open when clearly they've had to have cameras? I mean, they have cameras everywhere in Niagara Falls, you know, at the falls.
I can give you a little background on that because I lived in Niagara County and I did a lot in the city of Niagara Falls. They have something like 50 people go over the falls that they slip into a year,
Right.
and then they
Right.
find them somewhere down the path, and
Right.
it's just, there's just too many places that it's open that people can just slide in.
But
Right,
it is,
but they have pictures of them, you know, but like I say, they won't let a case go until they actually find the body, you know.
Right.
How
But
do
it
we go
is-
back upstream though?
I have no
Uh,
idea. I have no idea.
it is frustrating though. I remember when I was in my very early 20s, my mother had a very good friend that they actually had townhouses and their garages faced each other. And her son was in Silmar, California, the friend. And his mom would go there every day and she would pick up the newspaper and take it in and what have you. And one day she picked up the newspaper, she went in, her son had been murdered violently. He had been stabbed something like 40 times. And he wasn't like the most upstanding in the sense that he dealt drugs apparently. And he had a German Shepherd. And it's very frustrating to me when law enforcement overlooks the obvious. They knew that this was somebody he knew. He had had a party, everybody left, somebody doubled back. Okay. And they knew it was somebody that was in his inner circle. And I kept saying, check them for dog bites. I clearly saw this dog bit somebody. They never did. Now they rehomed the dog with somebody that was known. Don't you know, 2 months down the road, this dog had to be taken to the vet because it had this big bump. The dog had been stabbed and it got infected. So this murder, to my knowledge, to this day, has still not been solved. And it could have been solved right then.
Yep.
Right then. And, you know, it's just like you said, there's got to be some cameras somewhere that could have picked it up. Like, why don't you guys go and look for, and maybe they did. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's like, assuming they didn't, why didn't you? Is it you didn't want to do the footwork? And what?
Or they didn't want to believe you.
Yeah.
That's probably the case.
And, you know, the one thing I will say is law enforcement is coming around a bit more than what they were. And it's nice because they've seen, in a lot of cases, they've seen the benefits of what we do. And I think that more of them are becoming more open, which tells me that we're having more spiritual people entering into law enforcement. And that's something that I applaud. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to throw in the mix? Crickets. Actually, no, crickets make more noise. Can you guys believe that Jack has been quiet all night? Jack hasn't said a word.
What's wrong with Jack?
Jack, are you feeling okay?
You want a barrette?
Oh, not the barrette again.
What's a barrette? A hat?
Listen, Jack has been,
That's a beret.
She calls
Oh.
her princess. She wants to give her a barrette. What was the other thing?
she's been calling me cupcake. She's been calling me princess, a closet princess, and
Cupcake.
asking me if I want a barrette. Look at, I'm growing my hair back out to go to a style I had before. It's miserable right now. Like it's poking me in the left eye. But, you know, what am I going to do? So
Wear a barrette.
You know, y'all aren't funny.
I'm
Send
sorry.
you a bobby pin.
I thought it might be.
Y'all aren't funny. Jack, I was asking you if you had anything constructive.
I feel that was constructive.
Well, you might want to rethink your feelings.
You can't tell me how to feel.
I said you might want to. I didn't tell you you had to.
Oh my goodness.
Very literal, remember? Very literal.
Oh.
Do you have anything to add, pal? See, I'm going to be nice and call you pal right now.
No, I don't. I digested some of this after I got home today. And I think I'm still digesting it.
Well, what did you see? Did anything stand out to you? Jump out at you?
Well, I found it very interesting what I got through. You know, and like where the fact that we kind of do it, we don't know we're doing it.
Another ability that we have.
What
and
Oh, I'm sorry, Stacey, go ahead.
No,
Another
that's okay.
tool
I
in the
was just,
toolkit.
Stacey, go ahead.
Go.
no, I was trying to hear. I was just gonna say, I think that it would be fun to, you know, I agree with Jack. I think we do it and we just don't even know we're doing it most of the time, you know. But I think that if you're new to this or you're trying to figure out how to do it, I know one of the things that Randy had said in the beginning was, you know, either, you know, say, even now, like in your home. So say you have a cat or a dog, right? And just kind of think about your cat or dog. Say your cat's name in your head 3 times and see if you can't, in your mind, go see where your cat or dog is. Now, Jack, if you're looking down at your dog or something right now, that doesn't count. They have to be in a different room.
I feel a Riri behind me. I can
Right.
feel the Riri.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But you know, like there's ways to do it, you know, that's kind of fun, or go to places, you know, like I've always said too, like I was trying to teach my daughter how to remote view, for example. My daughter's way open to this stuff, right? So I said, go to your locker and look in your locker at school, you know, what's there. And she goes, well, my mirror, but that's going to be there, Mom. And I'm like, okay, but is it straight? Is it crooked? Is it sideways? You know, just kind of ways to try to figure out how to do it. Like I said, sometimes you're just going to, like we've learned today, just trust. We're just going to know we're going to go there and we're just going to see it. And we're just going to say what we see. But for those that might want to try, I think, you know, either connecting to or a picture of, and now with this great World Wide Web, here's another fun exercise. Well, it's probably boring right now since we're all in COVID and quarantine. But the other thing I would do with students is I would say, all right, think of the Eiffel Tower, or go see in your mind's eye Bourbon Street in New Orleans, right? And I say, now tune into somebody on that street. And then we would turn on, because there's live cameras, live feeds everywhere, right? So you can see the Eiffel Tower and the tourists, and you can see if you're seeing a guy, you know, if you see a guy with a beret on, I mean a beret, you know, and you can actually go there to see it, just kind of like how that guy did in the book, you know, because it was military. So a lot of that was classified, but those are ways you can try to do it just sitting in your home, you know.
I'm telling you guys, I don't know what the peanut butter double stuffed Oreo grilled cheese hoo-ha hell is going on, but y'all think you're some comedians.
I don't know how you remember to say all that.
It just happens. I don't even think about it.
How we
I
went
don't.
from Oreo grilled cheese to that whole long drawn out thing.
I don't know.
Remember all that.
I don't know. It just happens. I guess it's spirit. Colleen, what were you gonna say, hon?
She don't know.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, so one
Yes,
thing that
Colleen.
So one thing that I like to do with my students is look at your front door or look at your bathroom. What's on the counters? Yeah, I see that. Mediumship crew. Yeah. They're not funny,
Ah.
Eve. They're not funny tonight with the barrette thing.
They're sensitive.
Look at your counters, you know, in your kitchen. What's on it? Especially if you don't live alone, because somebody could have come behind you and moved something. What does it look like? In my backyard, I've got a bunch of fruit trees. So what's fun for me is to visually, you know, remotely go through the yard and look at the fruit trees, and then go out and see if the fruit matches. You know, I'll remotely walk around a fruit tree and I'll see where the fruit is, and then I'll go outside and I'll look, and you know, most every time it matches. So just some fun things that you can do. And you know, you can make up your own ways. You don't have to do it in any way that we've mentioned. You know, be creative. All right. So does anybody else have anything else to add before we close up? No?
Any more hair tips?
What's that?
Any more hair tips?
Oh God, she's still at it. Tiffany, honey, thank you for joining us with your family. And feel free. We do this once a week. Feel free to join us whenever you like. Colleen can tell you how to get onto my Facebook, and then you'll get you'll see the notifications and what have you. And just always let me know when you want to come in, and I'll send you the login info. And we'd like to wish everybody a good night. Eve, we missed you.
Yeah, Eve,
And-
we missed you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. She couldn't get the link to work for whatever reason, and it's not surprising because Mercury.
Mercury in
Mercury.
retrograde.
Yep.
It's painful right now. But it's over on election day. So, you know,
Thank God.
it's coming quick, so we'll be good. I'd like to say good night to everybody else. And I'll-
Right. Mail-in ballot today.
Oh, okay. Well, Jack's on it. I'd like to say good night to everybody. Please remember to go to the YouTube channel Randi Sands, and hit subscribe and the notification bell if you want to be notified of future content. And let's see, next week is the tarot card review. So we'll be reviewing 2 more tarot cards, and we do an in-depth review on them. And we haven't decided what's happening the second Monday.
I think
So
it's Empress and
no,
No, we did, Chris.
Emperor. Emperor then.
I don't remember. I'd have to check, but yeah, it's somewhere right in there. So yes, if you have any topic you would like us to discuss, we have the second Monday of next month open. So please hit us up, feel free. And like we say all the time, if we don't know, between all of us, we know somebody that does.
So how about the topic, to barrette or not to barrette? That is the question.
You know, SSK, I depend on you to come up with
Love
something
her.
better than that.
I love her. She's one of my favorite people.
We love her,
You
but
can
you
take
know.
it into the topic of spiritualists that wore barrettes.
There we go. Isn't there? There has to be somebody that wore barrettes. And who's our next one up?
Okay, well, you know what? We can do that. We can talk about a spiritualist that wore barrettes, but that is usually the third Monday of every month. So that means SSK has to come in on the second Monday and do another pioneer. So that means she'll have 2 pioneers next month. And I think that's a great idea. I think that is perfect. Since she made that remark, I think that is perfect. Maybe she won't ever do that again. No, I'm joking. All right, everybody, I'm wishing you a good night. You guys feel free, say good night to the good people.
Good night,
Good night, good people.
And I can tell all you good people right now, Jack did not put cologne on for you again tonight.
No, but I didn't take a shower.
Well, that's a blessing. And I can
Okay.
promise you that SSK and I did wear our cologne for you guys because it's a thought that counts.
And
And with that, yes. And with that, may you all have a great night.
Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Great.